Hey, random internet strangers, this is Random Forex Guy speaking with you once again on this day, December 22nd, 2019. It's a Sunday. Finally had a chance to sit down and do some recording here, so let's go straight to the charts. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. A few things I want to go over today. First, the price action, of course, always the most important part. Where is Bitcoin today? And we see we have achieved 7,200 at one point. We were up to almost 7,500 and hitting that 20 moving average that I talked about. That's the first area that people are going to look at for a positive bullish sign. And so it's not the only area, but it's the first area that the people that want some assurance that that we are back into a bull market, this is the first line that they look at. The institutions, however, look at the supply and demand zones. If you watch my Sam Seedon videos on my website, you would understand what these supply zones, demand and supply zones are. But this big one that I'm particularly looking at is this guy right here. It starts here and goes all the way down to about $1,500 in depth, and we're about halfway into it. That's a little deep, but it is holding. So far, so good. So it's definitely a bullish sign, considering it's over the holidays, so the volumes are much lighter. Everybody's on holiday, buying Christmas presents, so there is not as much volume as there was in the previous month. So we're definitely seeing some improvement on this downward cycle. And we still have a lot of downward pressure. If we look here, you can see how steep that downward pressure is. However, when we look at the lows, we see at first, this is pretty steep, this drop here, but now it's starting to level off a little bit, these downward. That means that the upward pressure is gaining on the downward pressure. When you start seeing the slope of these lines, the slope in between the lows, as it gets less and less steep, and here we're almost leveled off. There's about $100 difference between that low and that low. When we start leveling off, that means that the bulls are winning the fight, because there's always just a constant pressure. You have the downward pressure of the bulls or the bears and the upward pressure of the bulls fighting for price. And that's how price moves, depending upon how many buyers versus sellers are. And that's particularly true for commodities such as Bitcoin or gold or silver. With Forex, it's a little bit different, and I know I haven't talked a lot about Forex. I will eventually get to that as we progress, but I'm really focused on this market right now because it's so important that I think that we have reached that demand level where we are going to see some fantastic returns in the upcoming year. The reason why, Bitcoin just announced that there's a couple things. There's the Lightning Network. It's been around for a while, and the Lightning Network is a second layer on top of Bitcoin that'll allow microtransactions. Now, one of the biggest problems with Bitcoin is that it takes a long time for each transaction. It can only process about 7 transactions a second. Compare that to like Visa, we can charge 20,000 transactions in a second. So in order for Bitcoin to compete with something like that, they have secondary networks, and one of them is called the Lightning Network, and it's built on top of the Bitcoin network. And it allows, what it does is it creates exchanges, like say for Starbucks, for example. If you wanted to buy a coffee, Starbucks would exchange you could exchange your Bitcoins with Starbucks, but it would be on the Lightning Network, and then at the end of the day, they would take all their pluses and minuses and then put it on the Bitcoin exchange. And that way, the process could be sped up much faster in order for it to be effective and to be, it's the scalability problem. It solves one of the scalability problems. The other scalability problem solving, or scalability solution, is that Bitcoin has announced that, or Coinbase actually, the place that I recommend, is announcing where you'll be able to send Bitcoins peer-to-peer through email. And that's huge, because now your grandma can use Bitcoin. You don't, it's so simple now. It's going to be, you're going to be amazed how simple this technology is going to revolutionize things. So between those two things, I became even more bullish on Bitcoin than I've ever have been. And one of the things that I have done, though, is I pulled back from Ethereum. And the reason I have done that is because Ethereum is going to come out with a new coin in 2020 called Serenity. And to me, they're getting a little bit too diluted. They're diversifying too much into different areas and trying to do too much too soon. And so I'm going to kind of sit back on it. I haven't really gone full in on Ethereum. Before, I was really bullish because I really like their ideas of the future of not just cryptocurrencies, but blockchain in general, and how they want to revolutionize things. It's probably too much too soon, though, at this point. I think that's something that we can take a look at maybe 5-10 years down the road. But as of right now, what needs to happen is Bitcoin needs to establish itself as a commodity, as a player. I definitely believe that Bitcoin is going to replace gold eventually. And so I think that that should be the priority, because money makes the world go round, like it or not. And then eventually the technology, the blockchain technology itself, is going to replace a lot of different things. But I just think that the Ethereum is so far advanced that it's gone too many directions too soon. That's the issue I have with Ethereum. The other issue I have with Ethereum is because they're doing what's called a decentralized movement. There's going to be a lot of backlash from governments and stuff, because the control freaks want to control freak. And the whole idea behind decentralization is to eliminate the control freaks and get rid of them and put the trust into the blockchain technology and the cryptography. So I think that there's going to be a big battle yet there to win. I love what Ethereum is doing. I just think that it's probably a little bit too soon to find out whether it's going to be a winner or a loser yet. So I pulled out of Ethereum. I put everything into Bitcoin, Litecoin, and a coin called Tezos, which is on Coinbase, which gives you 5% annual return when you stake your Tezos. So instead of mining like you do with Bitcoin, with Tezos is proof of stake. And these are the two different versions of the same thing, where to be able to create consensus on the network. It's kind of difficult to explain. The videos do a better job of explaining than me trying to cram it all in 15 minutes and everything I want to accomplish. But that's what I do. The majority of it is in Bitcoin, my long-term hold position for the next 12 to 24 months. Tezos and Litecoin. Those are the three that I've chosen. I've kind of pulled out all the altcoins. I think it's too much too soon, too many to choose from to find out if there is going to be a big winner like Ethereum was back in the last wave. There's just so many different ones to try to pick the winner out of it. I think Ethereum is still going to be in it, and I think they're in it for the long haul, but I think that like I said, they've got a little schizophrenic and a little too diversified for me to really put a lot of eggs in that basket right now. I want to see this new coin, Serenity, come out. But like I said, Bitcoin is king. So it is gold. It's going to be the new gold. That I'm convinced of. There's no question about it. And so what we're doing is we're going to try to get in on these bounces right here. I think we might see a couple more. When the stock market corrects, you're going to start seeing the money flows come back into fiat currency and into gold, and when the risk is off. But right now the Fed is printing so much money, it allows the companies, the corporations, to buy their stock back, and that's what's pumping the price up. It's just none of that money's trickling down to us. What they're doing is, in order for them to keep propping up and be able to continue to issue credits, they're just printing money out of thin air. It's backed by your taxes, and then it's put out and distributed out at the first level. There's different levels of money. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it never reaches down to the level of Main Street. It all stays up in Wall Street and just gets circulated into the stock market, pumping the prices up through stock buybacks, making them more valuable. And yeah, pumping your 401ks, but it's all air. It's money printed out of thin air. We're stealing our taxes from our children. That's what backs this money that they print out of thin air. There's the guarantee that in the future your children are going to pay taxes. So that's what makes it really sad, and what eventually is going to create a lot of friction between cryptocurrency and the fiat currency world, because that's how if you watched my other videos about how our money is created, our fiat money is created, and how Bitcoin is created, and now that people are accepting, more and more accepting of Bitcoin, there's going to be a clash of the titans. And I don't know how it's all going to turn out. I know it's going to be a rough and bumpy road once Bitcoin really takes hold, because you have to understand, right now it's only tens of billions of dollar market. The fiat market, where our dollar is, and the yen, and the euro, and the Great British pound, you take all that money and combine it together, that's just printed out of thin air and backed by your taxes, your children's taxes in the case of the Republicans, but it's backed by your taxes as a guarantee that we're going to pay that money back. And you take all that money and you combine it together, and it's trillions of dollars a day being exchanged. $4 to $8 trillion every day, daily. That's, whereas in Bitcoin, combine all the altcoins from shitcoin to Bitcoin, it's maybe tens of billions. So it's not even, if Bitcoin can capture even 1 to 5% of that market share, that's huge. That's going to increase its value tremendously. And when that stock market breaks, when the credit issued out by the banks exceeds the debt and it can't keep up, that's when the stock market's going to collapse. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. Nobody really does, but it will happen. There will be a correction. It's going to be a big one. That money is going to go from what they call risk on to risk off, and they go to safe havens. They look for safe places to stash their money, whether it's gold, risk on currencies like the United States dollar, stuff that doesn't make a lot of money but doesn't lose a lot of value. Bitcoin is going to be one of those places that they go, and if it can capture even 1 to 5% of that market share, it's going to make this take off again. That's what happens during these cycles. You see the Bitcoin jumped up to 20,000. You see Bitcoin jump up to 14,000. We're going to see another one of these jumps when that happens. I don't know how long, when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen soon. And when it does, you got to be ready. And that's why I say get into Coinbase now. You don't have to buy Bitcoin right now, but I suggest that you strongly suggest, that's what I'm doing anyway. What you do is your choice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what I see and what I'm doing. You choose to do that, that's on you. If you lose money, you lose money. If you win money, that's also on you. So I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. And so my time is almost up here. Y'all have a great day.